and taxation to influence the economy. Although modern fiscal policy developed during the Great Depression, the debate over government intervention began much earlier. During the 19th century, many economists supported the neoclassical belief that markets were self correcting. According to this argument, falling wages, prices, and interest rates would eventually restore full employment without extensive government action. However, the Panic of 1837 caused bank failures and a depression that continued through much of the decade. The Panic of 1893 produced another severe contraction, and the Panic of 1907 became one of the most serious financial crises before the Great Depression. Although the government occasionally responded to these crises, fiscal policy was not yet viewed as a primary tool for stabilizing the economy. The Great Depression challenged the self-correction argument. Beginning in 1929, industrial production collapsed, unemployment soared, and banking panics made the downturn worse. President Franklin Roosevelt responded with the New Deal, which expanded public works, relief programs, financial regulation, and the federal government's responsibility for economic stability. British economist John Maynard Keynes provided the theory behind a more active approach. Keynes argued the recessions could continue because wages and prices are sticky, meaning they may not fall quickly enough to restore full employment. In the aggregate expenditures model, total spending by households, businesses, government, and foreign buyers determines the economy's short run output. Keynes also introduced the multiplier. When the government spends money, the initial recipients spend part of their new income, creating additional income and spending throughout the economy. As a result, the total increase in output may be larger than the original government expenditure. Keynes also described the paradox of thrift. Although saving is responsible for one person, widespread attempts to save during a recession can reduce consumption, income, and employment. Another concern is a liquidity trap. When interest rates are already extremely low, people and financial institutions may hold additional money rather than borrow, invest, or spend it. Monetary policy then becomes less effective, increasing the potential importance for government spending and tax policy. Keynesian ideas influenced American policy after World War II, but confidence in government management weakened during the 1970s. The country experienced stagflation, a combination of high inflation, unemployment, slow growth, and energy disruptions. This economic and political malaise contributed to Ronald Reagan's victory over President Jimmy Carter in the 1980 election. Reagan promoted a different approach that emphasized tax reductions, deregulation, slower growth in domestic spending, and incentives for private investment. His election represented a movement away from the broad Keynesian confidence and demand management and toward supply side and market oriented policies. However, the Great Recession of 2007 through 2009 revived support for fiscal intervention. The federal government enacted tax rebates, financial rescue measures, and the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act to support demand and employment while interest rates approached zero. More recently, modern monetary theory, or MMT, has pushed the debate further. MMT argues that a government issuing its own currency has more freedom to finance public programs than a household or business. Under this theory, inflation and available productive resources, not simply the size of the deficit, are the main limits on spending. Overall, American fiscal policy has shifted between confidence and market self correction and support for active government intervention. Each major crisis has forced policymakers to reconsider how much responsibility the federal government should have for maintaining employment, economic growth, and price stability.